Now that you know how to make compost, we need to decide when to add it and how much. And that's what we're going to cover right here on the Backyard Gardens TV. If you've been following along, you know I did a whole episode about my wild garden and kind of my theory behind it. Now the issue is with the wild garden is it's 2 years old now and it doesn't really produce like I want it to, which leads me to believe that there's a soil issue. So this is the wild garden here. So these two are just where things grow wild. And what we've done is we've come through and we've determined that there's a soil issue. So we did a soil sample and then I came through and I put some unfinished compost on here. And so it is fall. And I know that I've said, you know, you want to make sure it's finished, blah, 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 to make sure that it doesn't burn anything and everything's broken down good. So why would I add unfinished compost? Well, that's a mighty fine question. So unfinished compost, you put it in the fall. And what that does is you lay it down and then it'll continue to break down over the winter, because let's face it, you're not going to be in your garden over the winter, right? So let the garden do its thing. Let it continue to break down and build that soil a little bit more. Now I didn't put in fresh like vegetables and manure and stuff like that, but some of it was aged, and as you can see, some of it it had some chunks left in it, but it will break down between now and next spring. And we have 4 months to let it do its thing, so it's just aging it just that much more to make it that much sweeter of black gold. And that's what we want to put in the garden to help feed it, to help make it more productive. So this is the bed that I added it in. You can see a clear line right here where there's no compost and where there is compost. So, and you can see here, we have some volunteers coming up from stuff we've composted, which is good, because what that does is the roots will go down into the soil and kind of dig it up a little bit and activate it, and then the frost will come and it'll wipe it all out, and then that will just be more for us to get compost from. But this I left here for 2 reasons. One, to show you that this is your base level right here. I know it's a little divoted, but this is your base level, and I just came in and added about a ½ an inch of compost right here, maybe an inch. And the other reason why is I'm going to come back and put garlic right here. This is going to be a row or 2 of garlic, and then I will come back and put compost on top of it. But you can see the clear difference, and this whole bed right here is not going to do anything except for the garlic until spring, and then that's just going to continue to break down and build and build and build. Sometime in the fall is the best time to lay the compost down for 2 reasons. One, it'll continue to break down, and 2, you can still get out there and work it, and if you need to plant something, you still can. So if you do it in the fall, you can use a little bit of unfinished compost, but if you do it in the spring, you want it to be completely done, because as soon as you plant, those plants are going to start building and growing into it, and you don't want them to be, high nutrients or anything like that and burn the seedlings, because they're going to be real delicate when you put them in. So by doing this allows you, by doing it in the fall, this allows it to age more and get it just a little bit more ready to just feed those plants and get them off to a good start. Because like we said in the last one, you want to have that good foundation, and that's really what fall is all about, is building that good foundation. So you can get a jump start on it now, and then come spring, all you got to do is do a light cleanup, and then boom, you can get out there and start planting. And that's really the way I like to do it. But that doesn't mean it's the right way. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and you know that you're going to figure out the way you like to do it, and that's the way it's going to be successful. As long as you follow some basic guidelines, you should be good. It's really not rocket science, but when people start talking about burning plants and it kind of freaks you out, and ratios and all that stuff, it can get a little overwhelming, but once you start doing it, it's not a big deal. And if you are worried about it, then you can always buy bagged compost that's already aged and ready to use, and then it's not an issue. But it costs money. Everything that we're doing and putting in our compost pile is free, or it's a byproduct of what we've grown or done in our yard. So try it out. I came through the rest of these beds and I actually bought compost because I had stuff growing in them. And so if you follow any of what we have before, you know that any of our other videos, you know that we have these wood chips on the top of the soil. And what we did is we put the compost on top because I removed as much as I could, but the compost will help the wood chips stay more moist and break them down faster, which is going to be even more fuel for the garden in the future. But can we just take a second to look at these Brussels sprouts and just recognize the fact that this has been a 3-year battle for me, and it looks like we're being pretty successful. If you can see on this nub right here, we're starting to get some formage of Brussels sprouts, which makes me happy. Once I added the compost in to those beds, 3 days later, we started getting more growth. We could see that it was turning greener. And then 5 days into it, we really started to notice a change. What is it gonna be like in 14 days? Who knows? But I know that it is very quick. And once we watered it in, it can get down, we already see a change. Not to mention, it looks a hell of a lot better than those wood chips. I don't like those wood chips. They didn't work out well for me, but that doesn't mean I won't be using them, just not as much. And the compost that I put in is actually cow manure compost, which is perfectly aged. It's by Black Cow, and it's perfectly aged, and you can plant right in it, so they say. So I just added it all to my beds, about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, because I'm gonna go back behind it in the spring and add more. But it's ready to go. And we didn't put them right up on the base of the plants. We kind of left a little bit of a ring around them, and everything seems to be going good. If you're having some kind of issue with your soil, I'm sure if you're anything like me, you thought, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna add about 1 foot of compost in there and just cook right in it, make them cook and grow and get big. And that's not how it works. Just a little bit goes a long way, because you still need that soil, but you want to continue to build that soil over time. You want to nurse it and take care of it, and that's the way that you're going to be ultimately the most successful. If you got nothing else from all this, remember this: add your compost in the fall at about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch layer right on top. If you do the no-till method, if you want to till it in, go for it, but it's up to you. And then be ready for spring. And then you can go back in the spring and add just a little dusting right over it, and add as you plant as well if you really like to. But just don't go overboard on it. Make sure your compost is well aged and decomposed, and you're gonna have a happy, beautiful garden. So check us out on the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about this and we break it down multiple issues about gardening. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later.